Today I'm doing my last video of my favorite exercises. So today is my 13th one. So far I've done 12. I started off with hollow holds. I have a list here. Second, I showed you L-sits, couple different variations. I showed you after that tipping birds for number 3. Sometimes they're called single leg deadlifts. Number 4 were pull-aparts. I showed you a couple variations on that. Number 5, I showed you kettlebell swings, which you could use something other than the kettlebell is okay too. Number 6, I showed you pull-ups. Some people call them chin-ups. You can call them whatever you want. They're all kind of basically the same thing. Number 7 was a goblet squat. Number 8 was a push-up. Lots of different ways to do push-ups. Number 9, I basically called it a unilateral vertical press, basically a one-arm overhead press. Couple variations on that, few variations actually. Number 10 was a unilateral knee-dominant exercise, basically a lunge, a split squat, or a single leg squat. Number 11 last week was a Turkish Get Up. I showed you a lot of different variations that I do on that, mainly one that I call the Texas Get Up. And then number 12 is basically a unilateral horizontal pulling or rowing exercise. My favorite variation is a lawnmower row. Number 13, my favorite exercise of all time, and I think arguably the most important exercise that pretty much anybody can do, would be a deadlift. The deadlift used to be called the health lift in the late 1800s and early 1900s. The exercise has been around for a long time. It's basically where you pick up dead weight from the ground and you pick it up to a standing, tall, correct posture exercise. The exercise is important because it works all the muscles that are responsible for upright posture. And upright posture is what makes us human, and I'm gonna go more into that right now. As you can imagine, when you take an exercise that used to be called the health lift and you turn it and start calling it a deadlift, it sounds a little scarier. Doctors, for example, are terrified of a deadlift. They're terrified of squats. They tell people not to do deadlifts, not to do squats, because a lot of people do, especially these two exercises, they do them wrong. They do them with too heavy a weight, with poor form. A lot of people get hurt doing these exercises because they do them wrong, not because they're bad exercises. They are great exercises. They are exercises that are essentially important for pretty much everybody who is not damaged. And some people that are damaged can find different variations of both of those exercises that will improve their health. But if you do them wrong, you'll get hurt. You'll screw yourself up. So you have to learn really proper form. So the deadlift is also an exercise that they do at the space station. Astronauts go to space because of zero gravity. Oftentimes when they've done their time there and they come back to Earth, they're in a wheelchair. Their muscles have atrophied, their bones have gotten weaker. They can't stand up, at least not easily. They had trouble. The deadlift is one of those exercises they're gonna do to try to maintain their strength so when they get back to Earth, hopefully they can walk and be standing upright, because it's really important. We're all fighting falling forward as we get older. There's lots of things that contribute to that, but one major thing is people don't do any exercise to strengthen going the other way. If time and gravity and aging is pulling us this way, we have to fight it with everything we can going the opposite way, and that's what a deadlift does. So exercise, even this exercise, as much as I love it, it's funny. Exercise came about because we stopped doing so much manual labor. So we have to do pretend labor to stay in shape. So the deadlift is one of those exercises. I'm old school, so when I think about exercising in a little, gerbil wheel, it seems funny to me. I believe that if you're going to pick a weight up, especially in an exercise like the deadlift, you should carry it somewhere. So I'm a big fan, and I'm officially saying that if you're going to deadlift, I want you to also carry the weight and walk with it for a little bit. So first things first, if you have a serious medical condition, consult with your doctor, physical therapist. Make sure that you are cleared to do this exercise. It's not going to be a good fit for somebody who has some pretty serious injuries, especially with your spine. But if you're cleared to go, you're all good, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to stand with your feet together. I want you to lock out your knees. I want you to do this with your arms, straighten your arms, and I want you to lean down with straight knees as far as you can go. How far can you go down and your back still stay completely straight? I'm right about here. So right about there, I can see I'm touching about mid-shin. That's about as low as I would want to go. Anything that I'm going to pick up, even if I bend my knees, I don't want to pick up anything that's lower than where my tip of my finger can go. For me, it's going to be about mid-shin. For some of you, you're not going to be able to go down that far, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you can't do a deadlift. But what you can do is whatever weight you're gonna choose, and it could be a kettlebell, a dumbbell, a barbell, it could be, there's so many, a trap bar, a hex bar, there's so many different things you can pick up. But you could elevate whatever weight that is off the ground somehow. Right now I'm just using a few weight plates. I'm putting a kettlebell on top of it, and that got the kettlebell off the ground about 5 inches, and now it's a little easier for me to go down and pick it up. But the thing about a deadlift is you're going to lean down and pick something off of the ground. At the very bottom, before you pick that weight up, your back has got to be completely straight. No rounding in the back, even just a little bit. A lot of people will bend their back like that. You'll watch on YouTube, there's a lot of people deadlifting in the world that deadlift like that. Some of them are world champions. It doesn't mean that it's correct. You can get hurt. You're trying to train your body to be in good tall posture, so you don't want to practice in bad posture, especially with weight. It can be dangerous, but it can also make you really curve. So this first variation of a deadlift that I really like to do, I usually do this on days that I'm a little tired, a little beat up, and I need kind of a lighter, more medium day. I like to use a kettlebell. Sometimes I'll use a pretty heavy kettlebell. I have a lot of my clients pick these up with 2 hands. I don't. I prefer to pick it up with 1 hand, and like I said, I'm going down, my knees are going to bend a little bit, my back stays straight. So I'm picking it up with a straight arm, I'm engaging my entire body, and I stand all the way up. I squeeze my butt, stand in tall posture so my shoulders are back, and I set it down. From the side view, I alternate. I pick it up now with the other hand, and I go back and forth. Left, stand it up. Right, squeezing everything at the top. And I'll do that for how many ever reps? Say maybe 10. On the last one, I'll put that weight to the side and I'll walk around, and then I'll walk back, set it down, pick it back up, walk around, and then come back. So basically I'm deadlifting with 1 arm. I do that for a few reps going back and forth, and then I carry it on the last reps. That's a variation I do very, very often. This next variation of the deadlift is my main go-to. I primarily use what is called a hex bar or a trap bar. They're about 150, 200 bucks. Best investment you can invest. If you're deadlifting at home, just buy the bar. Trust me, just buy the bar. I'm not a fan of a straight bar. A lot of people use a straight bar. I have a lot of reasons I don't like using the straight bar. I like this bar because you really can't screw it up. It's pretty easy. You grab the handles and you stand up with it completely straight and then set it back down. The best thing about this is it's easy to walk because you've got plenty of room to move your legs and the bar is not going to get in your way. But what I typically do is I use the low bar setting. So I flip this over, and now I'm using a bar that's lower to the ground because I have the flexibility and the strength to do that. Not everybody does. But I use this variation. I have to get a little lower to the ground. I stand up with it, and then I usually walk with it. Sometimes I do all my deadlifts in place and then I walk on the last one. Sometimes I pick it up, walk with it, come back, pick it up again, walk with it. I change it up every time. And one last thing that I like to do a lot is I like to pick this bar up sometimes from the sides. So it's a little bit more wiggly. Sometimes I pick it up crooked on purpose. Pick it up there. Sometimes I pick it up from the sides on the outside plates. So many different variations. I love them all. It's a great exercise. That bar is a great bar. If you're gonna do deadlifts, I highly recommend it. So there you go, that's the deadlift. It used to be called the health lift. It's, in my mind, it's an essential exercise. If I could only do one exercise with most people, that is the one that I would choose. If I could only choose mainly one exercise for myself to maintain strength and posture and everything that I want out of working out, that's typically going to be my first choice. The deadlift plus the carry. The carry is something that most people don't do. It's something that I've added most of this last decade. I think it's essential. Deadlifting and carrying, 2 exercises that really have more bang for the buck than anything else you'll ever do. They're not a good fit for everybody, but they're a good fit for the majority of people. You want to get stronger at them, but you don't necessarily need to lift super heavy. You just need to lift with really, really good form. You can use, there's so many different ways. There's so many different variations of a deadlift, so many different ways to do it. There's so much equipment out there. You could use just about anything. You could use bags and bricks or water. You could find at the space station, they use hydraulics. There's so many different ways, but just look at the exercise in a simple form. You're basically leaning over with a straight, safe spine, and you're picking the weight up into straight, tall posture. What you're doing at the top when you're holding that weight is you're reinforcing good posture. You're telling your body, I want you to remember what it feels like to be straight and strong and not crooked and bent over like we're all heading that way. We're trying to stay straight as long as we can. This exercise helps with that. When you stand upright and walk safely with that it's fundamental. It's like doing manual labor. It is manual labor. And you're putting the work back in the workout, and it's so essential. Do not overlook the deadlift. If you only have time to do one exercise, my recommendation is doing the deadlift.